received a single offer nor an invite for a team visit since the team released him in March. Kaepernick defended Reid this week, tweeting this, quote, "While the NFL runs propaganda about how they care about black life, they're still actively blackballing Eric Reid for fighting for the black community. Eric set 2 franchise records last year and is one of the best defensive players in the league." Stephen A., this is surely curious. Explain to me from your vantage point, why do you think Eric Reid doesn't have a job?
Because they perceive him as being a pain in the neck. It's just that simple. Here's the deal about being blackballed. Colin Kaepernick has clearly been blackballed, unfairly, I might add. We should thank him and Eric Reid for the fight that they've put forth on our behalf. There is no question about that. And I've tried to say this to Eric Reid indirectly or directly in the past, but unfortunately, that's not something he nor Colin Kaepernick's camp gets. If you don't agree with them 100%, march lockstep with them 100%, you are against them. And it's the most annoying thing in the world, because you can agree with 99% of it. It's not enough. It has to be 100% with them or nothing at all. You're the enemy. You're a sellout. You're this, you're that. And that becomes a bit problematic. Colin Kaepernick has been blackballed. That is true. Last time I checked, Colin Kaepernick has been out of the league. Refresh my memory, Max and Molly. Hasn't that been since 2016? It's a rhetorical question because that answer is yes. Well, Eric Reid didn't have that problem. Even after taking a knee, even after speaking on behalf of Colin Kaepernick on numerous occasions, even with all the support that he has given Colin Kaepernick, as conspicuous as he has been in his quest to call out the National Football League, even joining Colin Kaepernick in a grievance against the NFL, the man still had a contract and was playing in the National Football League. So when you say he's being blackballed, well, wait a minute now. Okay, well, what would be the reason for that? We know the reason for you, Colin Kaepernick. But with Eric Reid, that may not necessarily be the case. At some point in time, what they have to recognize is the fact that as black people, every one of us walks into a job every day understanding we're operating behind the 8 ball. We have to be twice as good to get half as much. We got to go through the political terrain. Some of us handle it better than others, no doubt. Some of us are more adroit at handling it. Some of us know what minefields to avoid. Some of us have to learn more than others. Some of us have to exercise more patience than others, etc., etc. The point is that if you don't, you usually are going to end up suffering, no matter how unfair that is. And make no mistake, it is unfair. It is a reality that every black person in this nation faces every single day. We get up and walk out the door and have to deal with the terrain that involves maneuvering yourself through when it comes to corporate America. Eric Reid evidently doesn't want to go through that. I don't blame him for not wanting to go through that. I don't blame him for being tired of it. I don't blame him for being frustrated over it and even coming across as acerbic at times, because he has a valid point. But in the end, the reality is that we all have that point. And at some point in time, you have to recognize what you have to deal with and what you're willing to deal with if you indeed want to be a part of a particular organization. It's the National Football League. This is what they're going through. And you consistently calling them out, or Colin Kaepernick consistently calling them out, clearly is not going to work. Because if Colin Kaepernick isn't back in the league, what makes you think the priority would be for you to be back in the league? As gifted as I think we all recognize Eric Reid to be to some degree. I think those are the kind of things that he has to think about moving forward. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm saying that ultimately it may not be about Colin Kaepernick. It might be about, we're tired of hearing your mouth. Colin Kaepernick, blackballed, without question. Eric Reid was in the league in the aftermath of all of that. I don't think his case is as strong as Colin Kaepernick's in terms of the word blackball. He just might be a pain in the neck that people don't want to deal with.
Well, Stephen A., as a black man, you're saying that you understand through experience. And I understand, and many do, through just being culturally aware and sociologically aware, that yeah, it's black people are, behind the eight ball in many respects because of institutional racism, really, and cultural kind of preferences of many.
Sure.
I get that, and I think it's right. I think it's also incumbent upon white people and allies of not just black people, but of people of goodwill, right? To step in and say, well, hold on. You can't just discriminate against this person because, as a black man, he should know that he can't get uppity, right? That he needs to know his place, that he should shut up and dribble. No, it's incumbent upon others, not just black people, but allies of good people to say, and socially conscious people, to say, no, it's not all right. So I'm here to tell you, it's not all right. Not all right. What did he do? He pointed out that Colin Kaepernick is being used as propaganda right now by the NFL, which is true. How dare they use the image of Colin Kaepernick kneeling when he doesn't have a job? Forget about not having a job. Doesn't have a job offer. Forget about not having a job offer. Won't be given a look. Won't be given a tryout unless he signs a waiver that is not the standard waiver, but indemnifies the league against, or at least waives certain rights of Colin Kaepernick and gives the league some legal cover going forward. Why? Does anyone else have to sign that waiver to get a workout? It's ridiculous. He liked to be white-balled. He'd like to have at least an opportunity to have a job. So now, in Colin Kaepernick's case, the league, some can even credibly say, not that they're not even giving him a look, but at the time, look, remember this argument? And I even backed off at first. I said, maybe Kaepernick wants starter money or a starting role. And he's kind of a bubble starter right now. And they're like, yeah, you're a backup. That's not Eric Reid. Eric Reid, forget about the number of tackles last year. There's like tackle sharp analytics. Tackle expectancy above whatever. I forgot what the, matter of fact, I have the analytic in front of me. Tackles above expected. It uses personnel groupings and pre-snap stuff to figure out how many more tackles above expected do you have. Eric Reid's among the league leaders. He's 28 years old. He's in his physical prime. He's really an excellent defensive player. He doesn't have a job offer. His coach, Ron Rivera, even said, yeah, we'd have him here except we have Landon Collins, who they obviously think is even better. And they made a move to go get, right? So he doesn't work here. You mean to tell me no other team thinks he works? No other team? So he can't get a look? He doesn't have a contract offer? One of the better defenders in the league doesn't have a contract offer? Why? Because he correctly points out that the league is using Kaepernick's image as propaganda for a league that drummed him out? That's why, and let me tell you what the problem is. This goes to the heart of the situation. Why do we really love sports, and why has sports been a melting pot that the rest of the country sometimes hasn't been? Because it's meritocratic. It's supposed to be closer to a true meritocracy than other walks of life. If you can't hit a curveball, it doesn't matter who your daddy is. You can't make it in the major leagues, right? This goes to the heart of that. On the merits, Eric Reid is one of the better players in the league, and he doesn't have a job offer because he spoke truth to power. And I'm supposed to think, well, I guess it's got to be that way because black people need to know when to shut up, or any player needs to know when to shut up. To hell with that. This is disgraceful by the NFL.
Fine. The part that makes it very, very uncomfortable for us to have these conversations on First Take is that I don't disagree with you at all. I completely side with you, Max. But the point that I'm trying to come to is that you're not black. So what I'm talking about as a black person is not that Max Kellerman is wrong. It's that realistically, the end game doesn't work for us. Let me give you an example. Last year's Super Bowl, Tart, Ward, Matthew, the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, along with I think it was Sorensen. They were the safeties that started in the Super Bowl last year. Eric Reid is better than at least three of them. One could argue he could give all of them a run for their money. We could sit up there and say whether you're a strong safety or free safety, Eric Reid could start for 20 teams in the National Football League. You talk to teammates that have played with him, he's a damn good leader in the locker room. He comes ready to play. He definitely is focused. There's nothing about football that should deny Eric Reid a roster spot in the National Football League as a starter. That's how big time he is. So now that we get away from the football field, now we're talking about all the things that you just alluded to. As a white person, and this is what a lot of black people don't get when they look at me. Max, there's a lot of times, and you know this to be true, Max, there's a lot of times that I'll agree with you on these particular subjects, but I'll leave it for you to say. Why? Because white America needs to hear from you more so than me or another black person, because we're whistling into the wind. It's unproductive, it's ineffective, it's just noise coming from us. But when it comes from one of their own, who's fair-minded enough, whose soul is in the right place, and he has the facts to back it up, and the hue and the pigmentation and the culture is identified with them, and you're the one spewing it, that is what is best coming from you instead of me sometimes. So I notice having this pulpit,
I agree, Stephen
being one of the preeminent faces in this business, I'm wise enough to know, Stephen A., you don't have to take that. Let Max say it for you, because Max's heart is in the right place. He's got the facts to back it up, right? It's the same principle when it comes to the Colin Kaepernicks, the Eric Reids of the world, and others. We heard you. We understand exactly what y'all are saying. Millions upon millions of people know that y'all are right. Where has it gotten y'all? What you gonna do? Can we find a different way, Eric Reid, to maneuver through this terrain so you can speak truth to power and bring truth to the table while still keeping your job? Colin Kaepernick, our disagreement with the whole waiver thing when the tryout took place, Max, remember, was whatever the waiver said, and both of you and I had copies of it, what I was trying to say was the NFL in its history had never conducted a workout for one player, particularly one who had filed a grievance and had settled a grievance with the league. They were reticent about what would come with that and all of this other stuff. So what we were saying was, if you're in front of the camera and all of us are watching, we got you. But in the end, they made the decision, nah, we ain't trusting nobody but ourselves. Not even the millions of people who would be watching and ready to hold the NFL accountable. At some point in time, we have to know to do what sometimes on this show I admittedly do with you. I feel the exact same thing, but it is best coming from you, because if it comes from me, it's just whistling into the wind. But when it comes to corporate America, that white power structure, Max Kellerman, they need to hear from him. Somebody's got to adopt that mentality at some point. That's all I'm saying.
Stephen A., I agree. This is not a black problem. It's a white problem. Because who is in power?
Yes.
How many black NFL owners are there? Zero. Not many general managers, or you mentioned in the NBA, the team presidents who can really call their own shots, right? So this is something that white people have to get straight. And in terms of our basic